and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from the Carpathian Basin. I hope everybody is having or has had a good week and is looking forward to a great weekend, staying healthy, staying strong. Welcome, Jama, Abhi, Amruta, Nizarg, Tonwisi, Niyashi, Manpreet, good to see many students, and welcome members, Milind, Rajveer, Ois, nice to see you back in the class. Members, it's a good idea that you're here because we are continuing with our Task 2 essay that we started last class for the planning and the introduction. Okay, everyone, so this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com, that's academicenglishhelp.com. To pass the academic IELTS exam with flying colors. Make sure to visit us there, join our premium package. And for the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have lots and lots of materials to help you improve English, communication, and really get those high band scores. If you have questions, just send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com and I will do my best to help you out. This is our general IELTS website here at gieltshelp.com with the green background. Click that big red button to join us there. And then if you're looking for the academic IELTS, it's the blue background at academicenglishhelp.com. And again, you can click that big red button to join there. It's worth a few dollars to get those high band scores and save yourself time, money, and frustration on the IELTS exam. So for this week, this is the last class. No classes tomorrow. Again, I'm away on a trip tomorrow, so no classes tomorrow. But I will be back on the 9th with speaking part 1. So that's going to be on Wednesday, and it's going to be at the same time as this. So keep in mind that on the 9th, I'll be back with speaking part 1. And that will be for everyone. Okay, so I'll be back on the 9th. All right, so threat not. Milan's asking, where are you going for the trip, sir? I'm going to the eastern region of Hungary to do a kayaking tour on the Tisa River. It's called the Tisa River. And that's where I'm going. It's a 2-day kayaking tour to celebrate the 40th birthday of one of my friends. So that's going to be an adventure. I like the water. I like boating. I have a fair bit of experience kayaking as well and whitewater rafting, so should be fun. I'm always up for adventure. All right. No, this is not in BC, Ois, but there is fantastic rafting and kayaking in British Columbia as well. So not a bad idea. I've done a lot of that also. Okay, everyone, let's get back to point here. So it's IELTS Task 2, the persuasive essay for both general and academic. So you have to express your own ideas and arguments in the written form. And this is the question we're looking at here today. So IELTS Task 2 writing, you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Some people believe that a greater difference in age between parents and children is more beneficial than less of a difference. Do you think the advantages of a greater age difference outweigh the disadvantages? So this is the question, okay? One kind of danger that some people might make here is start talking about the advantages of having a less of an age difference, but that would be off topic. So this question isn't really asking you about the advantages of having less of an age difference, so you have to be careful, right, not to go off topic, okay? All right, so don't go off topic, stay on topic, okay? So this is the question. Do you think the advantages of a greater age difference outweigh the disadvantages. Omniscient says, help! Sir, I always get 6 band from my teacher, and she told me that I explain in so much detail and go off from the topic. Can you please help me with that? Don't go off topic, like I just said, definitely. You do want to explain in detail, so I don't quite understand that, because having detail is a good idea. You just want to make sure that you are on topic. Thank you, Beckjun. Okay, so we talked about this in the last class. We discussed that the topic is really the parent's age, referring to the age difference between children and their parents, or parenting from the perspective of having an age difference. And then we said, okay, quantifying is really important. So numbers are really important for clear explanation. So here we discussed what is a young parent, the average parent, and then what is an older parent in today's generation. So we went through some good questions and answers, figuring out the advantages and disadvantages of having a greater age gap between parents and children. And eventually we came up with our thesis and our introductory paragraph, so the introduction to this question. Okay. All right. So here we go. The introduction should always have a hook, background, and thesis. Now, of course, the example I'm giving you here, students, is a band 7 to a band 9. This is a band 9 example. If you're just looking for a band 5.5 or 6, you can just do a really simple introduction like this essay will talk about the advantages of having more years between parents and children, okay? But that's not going to really help you to get a band score much higher than 6, maybe a 6.5 if you have perfect writing, okay? All right, so this is standard, by the way. Sometimes I have the feeling like students are thinking that I'm making this up. I'm not making up this structure. It's not mine. Okay, this is not my style of writing. This is standard English essay structure taught in high schools, taught in colleges, taught in universities in Canada, Australia, UK. So if any of you go and learn essay writing in high school in Brisbane, Australia, or Vancouver, Canada, you will learn about introductory paragraph, has a hook, has some background, and has a thesis. Okay? Standard. That's what it is. It's not IELTS book. It's not a PTE book. It's not a I got this from a website book, but it's standard. It's like how to make a chocolate cake. You mix butter with sugar, number 1. Okay? Beckjun is asking, can we mention disadvantages by saying that it's greater? Yes, you can, Beckjun. And you could do it the other way where you only mention the advantages because you say the advantages are greater. Okay? The reason I'm mentioning both is because I don't know. So I'm kind of like, I don't think the advantages or the disadvantages. So I wanted to talk about that, Beckjun, so thank you for really quickly bringing that to my attention just before we get into the body paragraph. So for this essay, you could get a band 9 in 3 different ways. So type 1, intro, advantage 1, advantage 2, conclusion. Type 2, okay, you could have the same thing where you could have introduction, and then instead of the advantage 1, advantage 2, you could have disadvantage 1, disadvantage 2. Okay, and then the conclusion. Or you could have a third type. Okay, so that was a good question, Beckjun. I wanted to lightly touch on that so that students are clear on this. There isn't just one way to write this essay, okay? So you could do this many ways. You could write the essay as you have an introduction, And then if you think the advantages of having a bigger age difference are more, then you could have advantage 1, advantage 2, and conclusion. This is how you would write it if you agree that the advantages are greater. Okay? And then this is how you would do it if you disagree and the disadvantages are greater. Okay? And this is how you would write it if you neither agree or disagree. Okay? Is that clear, everyone? That you could write the essay in any one of these 3 ways, and if you have good writing, you have some good points, you could get a band 9 for this, you could get a band 9 for this, you could get a band 9 for this. This question does not ask you to discuss both. Okay? So if we look at this question carefully, nowhere here do you see discuss both the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so it says, do you think the advantages of a greater age difference outweigh the disadvantages? You could say, no, there are more disadvantages, this and this. Or you could say, yes, I agree, advantages are greater because of this and this. Or you could say, well, neither nor because of this and this. It doesn't say discuss both. Okay, so you could go either direction. If you have a good essay with good points, get a band 9. Okay, I can see Roshni says, yeah, I got that now. Okay. Nick Ham says, okay, I got it. All right. So it's logic. Always look at the question. If the question asks you, discuss both the advantages and disadvantages, you have to discuss both. Okay. All right. So we're discussing both because I'm writing a type 3 here. So here I'm writing a type 3 essay, so I'm discussing both. Okay. All right. So here we go with the introductory paragraph. Let's read it one more time and then we'll start to get into the body paragraph. So in current generations, it is much more common to have children at an older age than in the past. In the past, I don't want to repeat in the past, and I always like upgrading my essays, so I'm going to say previously. Okay. Previously, most young adults became parents in their early to mid-20s, as where these days, many people start to have children in their late 30s and early 40s. This age difference has a significant impact on both parents and children, as well as society. Now here's the thesis. The thesis is the last 1 to 2 sentences of most essays. I saw somebody asking me, what is a thesis? The thesis shows the position of the argument in this case, so the position of the writer, and a direct thesis shows very clear points about the position that you will discuss in your essay. So here, I do not believe that the advantages of a greater age gap between children and parents, such as having more time and money, necessarily overshadow the disadvantages of having less energy and empathy. So with this thesis, I'm clearly showing my reader that in body paragraph 1, I'm going to discuss the advantages of a greater age gap, which is more time and money. And then in body paragraph 2, I will discuss the disadvantages of having less energy and empathy, which is arguably equally as important. Is everybody clear on that? So everybody's clear how from this thesis, an educated reader will know right away the structure and the content of the essay, right? Okay, Millen says, yeah, I got it. Okay, all right. So let's start writing this. So let's get into body paragraph 1. Okay. So body paragraph 1, it starts with the topic sentence. Now, I know a lot of students are watching the classes regularly. What is the topic sentence? So what should be included? Remind me, what should be included in the topic sentence? It totally depends on the essay. For most university courses, you usually have about 1 week to complete your essays, and they're usually 1,500 words. That's for each class. You can have 5 essays in 1 week. Okay. All right, so let's see. What is the topic sentence? What's included there? So Rajveer says it's a deeper definition for body 1 points. Yeah, very good, Rajveer. So it's a deeper definition for body 1 points, or it's a descriptive paraphrase is another way to think about it, Rajveer, but that was good. So a deeper definition of thesis point 1, or another way that you could think about it is a descriptive paraphrase. I like the deeper definition more, but for some people it's easier to think about it as a descriptive paraphrase for point 1. Okay. All right, so for point 1, that's having more time and money. Okay. So give me a deeper definition of what that means to have more time and money as an older parent. Okay, so define that for me. I know it sounds strange because you're thinking, well, doesn't every person know what I'm saying when I say more time and money? Yeah, most of us have an idea, but we want to know exactly what you're thinking, not just kind of what you're thinking. Okay, so we want to know exactly what you're thinking, and that's why you want a deeper definition. Okay, Rajveer says people who opt to become parents in their late 30s tend to be financially stable, and have more time to spend with their children as a result. Maybe. Okay, I would finish that, Rajveer, with as a result. Okay, it might make more sense. Or you might be able to lead into your explanation a little bit better. Bekjan says becoming a parent in the late 30s and early 40s enables children to spend enough time and spend enough time with guardians. Furthermore, a greater age gap between parents and kids leads to financial stability. Yeah, I'm glad that a lot of you are realizing that one way to give a deeper definition of more money is financial stability. Absolutely, financial stability. Okay. Hassan says the positive point of a gap between generation these days is it enables parents to secure more money and have extra time for their offspring. Yeah, exactly. Hassan, I like that. I like, Hassan, how you emphasize that the positive point, because we're talking about the advantages, right? So why not mention that in another way, that it's an advantage, right? Okay, anybody else coming up with some ideas? Good. Erkin says, at the mature age, over 40, most people have sufficient welfare to afford comfortable life for the family. Erkin, it's good. I made a couple of corrections there, but overall, it's nice. I like how you take a very different approach to the paraphrasing. It's good. Millen says, parents having higher age gaps possess more money and time to raise their offspring in a positive way. Milland, good. Okay, nice. That works. It's good. All right. Ois says parents have kids at an older age. They marry and make good money from their business or career. Okay, Ois, good. So you're on the right track as well. Gladiator says as an older parent has decent time to spend with their family. On the other hand, younger parents will be stressed because they have many responsibilities such as education and career, something like that. Now, Gladiator, you're going a little bit into the explanation, which is your first supporting point, but you're on the right track, okay? So Alex says being a late parent is absolutely okay, and parents find financial stability as well as enough time for the family later on. Yes, so a positive aspect of being a mature parent is financial stability, which in turn also provides ample time for child rearing. All right. So here's my topic sentence. Of course, students, I'm always pushing you for vocabulary, so I'm always trying to introduce new words to you. Definitely like Hassan did, mentioning that we're talking about the advantage here in another way, a positive aspect of a mature parent. I think that was it was Alex that kind of prompted me for this late parent or mature parent. Financial stability, many of you are using that. And of course, here I'm connecting financial stability with the concept of time. Okay, so also provides ample, not two, but ample time for child rearing. Notice this interesting vocabulary. Child rearing is actually the noun of raising children. We say child rearing. Okay, to rear is to raise, and child rearing is to raise a child as a noun. Okay, all right. Okay, so I think most of us are on the same page now. Let's give some explanation here. Okay, so explain this concept to me. Okay, now when you're explaining a concept, what's important to include? So what should you be thinking about when you're thinking about explaining this? Mina says it's a boring lecture. I'm sorry, it's not as entertaining as an Avengers movie, Mina. At the end of the day, it is IELTS. Okay. So IELTS is IELTS, Mina. I'm definitely not going to be as entertaining as a red-nosed clown in a great circus. All right. So what should I include? Rajveer says quantitative language. Yeah, absolutely. Numbers, right? Numbers help us to define and help us to be clear about what we're discussing here. Okay? So, yeah. Yeah, so Roshni says think about the reasons, so think about the why answers, and think about quantitative language. Okay? Okay, so do that. So give me some explanation. So quantify means give numbers, so it's clear, and make it visual and logical. Okay? So think about the question, what do you mean? Like if somebody says, okay, you're telling me that mature parents are more financially stable and it gives them enough time to for child rearing. So what do you mean by that? How do you mean they have more time than, say, younger parents? Or how do you mean that they have more money? Okay. What do you mean by that? Okay. So give me some explanations. So Ois says parents who have kids later do not face financial problems, especially these days. Kids are very expensive. Ois, don't use contractions. So instead of don't, use do not. Okay. And Ois, instead of the negative side, don't face financial problems, explain to me what they have that's needed for a comfortable life with children. So try not to explain from the negative side, Ois. Always try to explain from the positive perspective, right? If that makes sense. So instead of telling me why I shouldn't buy this house, tell me why I should buy this house. Okay, it will make for a more logical argument. That's a really important point, everyone. So stronger arguments, logical arguments, are always made from the positive side. Let me give you an example of this, and this is very important for a better band score and, of course, for better essays in university as well. So instead of saying late parents do not have financial problems in life compared with younger parents. Okay, so this is a negative, what's called a negative perspective. Okay, it's not a negative point, it's a negative perspective. Okay, the positive perspective would be like this. Late parents have enough finances to afford a home, food, and education for their children, as where this is more challenging for younger parents. Okay, so this would be the positive perspective. Okay, so thanks, Ois, for saying that, because it lets me highlight this, okay? So does everybody see how when you're making an argument, it's important to pay attention to your argumentative perspective, and it's always better to explain why something is rather than saying what is not, okay? So does that make sense? So it's always better to explain why something is or what something is rather than what something is not. Okay, it's a stronger argument, it's more logical. Okay, makes sense? Yeah? Okay. So keep that in mind when you're writing your essays. You'll have better essays. Okay? So keep in mind that an argument from what's called a supportive point of view is always more effective than a disproving point of view, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. Okay. So I see that in the meantime, people came up with some explanations, so we'll get into that. Okay. So Abhay says, parents having financial stability, because of that, they can give a quality time to their children, and it helps raise them in a good way. Okay, Abhay, that's just still your topic sentence. You haven't given me any extra information compared to the topic sentence. Akashdeep, you're going off topic there. Okay, talking about parents not having time for their children and their children becoming bad people and turning into criminals is completely off topic. You're going to lose your reader if you write that, okay? So Roshni says parents at older ages, like in their 40s, do not have to spend more on their children, such as hospitals and education, and it provides them to accomplish more of a bank balance. Roshni, little bit, but you're still quite general, so we can be a bit more specific than that. Millen says late parents' children can be brought up efficiently where they do not need to strive for basic necessities such as a good diet and a home to live. Okay, Millen, you're much more on track there. That's good. Okay, so going into detail and going off topic are not necessarily mutually exclusive, okay? Ramandeep says, mature parents already have struggled to make their careers and have gained financial stability. Yeah, now again, remember, don't just repeat your topic sentence, all right? Give more depth, okay? So make it visual. And again, this is subjective, so parents in their 30s and 40s have established their careers and make thousands of dollars a month, which enables them to provide all of the luxuries for their children, like a big home and lots of toys. In addition, they are not preoccupied by spending an additional 6 hours a day on their studies and have this time to interact with their kids. Clearly, this benefits their offspring. Okay. All right, so there's my explanation. Again, quantitative language and visible language. Okay, that's what we're reaching for here. So parents in their 30s and 40s have established their careers and make thousands of dollars a month, which enables them to provide all of the luxuries for their children, like a big home and lots of toys. In addition, they are not preoccupied by spending an additional 6 hours a day on their studies and have this time to interact with their kids. Clearly, this benefits their offspring. Okay, again, that would be your band 9. So lots of visible language showing the advantage of being an older parent. All right. Okay. Now, we come up with an example. An example should be a specific real-world representation of your explanation. Okay? So your example should be like, okay, well, give me an example of that in the real world. So that should be your example. Some visible real-world context, situation, occurrence that represents that example. Beckjohn says, for instance, my uncle and aunt who have only one child at the age of 35 are living in a big cottage which had been built through their hard work before becoming parents, and now they spend most of their time together engaging in different games with their children. Yeah, exactly, Beckjohn. So my uncle and aunt had my cousin Mike at the age of 35, and they spend at least 10 hours a day with him, playing together in their big home with hundreds of toys. Okay, so exactly. Notice how I don't even use for example. When your example is very clearly a reflection, a real-world reflection of your explanation, then it just flows. Okay, watch. I'll read the explanation and the example together, and you'll see that it just flows. Okay. So parents in their 30s and 40s have established their careers and make thousands of dollars a month, which enables them to provide all of the luxuries for their children, like a big home and lots of toys. In addition, they are not preoccupied by spending an additional 6 hours a day on their studies and have this time to interact with their kids. Clearly, this benefits their offspring. My uncle and aunt had my cousin Mike at the age of 35, and they spend at least 10 hours a day with him playing together in their 4-bedroom house with hundreds of toys. Okay, so if I want to be even more specific here, right? with hundreds of toys. So notice how I don't need to say for instance or for example, because the best way to connect ideas is with information, is with content, okay? At the highest level in university, good essays and good writing don't actually use that many connectives. Although connectives are good, the highest level essays don't necessarily need a lot of connectives like for instance or for example, because it's clear from the content, from the information. Okay, so you can focus more of your words and energy on content rather than cliche expressions. All right, that's at the highest level. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Nancy's asking, sir, is it right to use my in essay writing? Yeah, Nancy, we're using the first person voice here because remember, the original question, Nancy, is asking for my first person voice, my personal opinion. It says, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? It's not do the advantages. So this is a first-person essay, students, because of these little two words here that are very important. Do you think? If we take out these words, do the advantages of a greater age difference, then it becomes a third-person objective voice. If you're not familiar with first, second, third-person voice of the author, I highly recommend reviewing that. Also, you can find information on that on our websites. Okay? Okay. No. Again, it depends on the question. So I think still a lot of people don't understand the difference of first, second, third-person voice, and you have to understand that, okay? So make sure, students, that you understand essay basics. Essay basics include knowing expository essay, persuasive essay, narrative, descriptive essay, the four main essay types, and understanding first, second, and third-person voice, okay? Make sure you understand these basics before you get too far into essay writing. Okay, so good. Now we need a connecting or concluding sentence. So according to our thesis, what kind of a sentence here would connect or conclude this paragraph? So connecting, concluding sentence. And remember, I'm kind of on the fence in this question, so I don't believe that the advantages of a greater age gap between children and parents is necessarily overshadowing the disadvantages. So what would be the concluding or connecting sentence here? Okay. So Beckjohn says, nevertheless, all of these benefits to a broader age segregation cannot shadow the deficits. Okay. However, there are some clear disadvantages of this phenomenon. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good way. There's some good ones coming out here. All right. Mina says, nevertheless, these advantages do not necessarily outweigh the disadvantages. Yeah, that's a good one, Mina. So nevertheless, these advantages do not truly outweigh certain deficits. Yeah, just that. Okay, nevertheless, these advantages do not truly outweigh certain deficits. Okay, let's get into body paragraph 2. So body 2, same thing, right? Topic sentence, explanation, and example, all the same. And now we're dealing with less energy and empathy. Okay, so those are the two that we discussed as our point number 2, is that when you have a greater age difference between parents and children, then parents tend to have less energy and they tend to have less empathy for their children's situation as well. Explain that. So give me a topic sentence, give me a deeper definition, get into an explanation, get into an example. Here's where you can test your writing fluency. I'm going to start writing here. You do the same, and then I'm going to keep coming back to the chat and then checking what you wrote, okay? So Bagjan says, having offspring at an older age leads to a lack of jewels among parents and a misconception of children's feelings. Okay, not bad, Bagjan. I think you're kind of on the right idea. I can't read the Korean name, but on the other hand, lower age variation would produce greater friendly manner. You can't talk about lower age variation because the question doesn't ask you about that. So the question doesn't ask what are the advantages of having a lower age gap. That's indirect. It's not direct. And this essay is only about 300 words, so you do not have time for an indirect explanation. Okay? Nigheim says, the energy and empathy which is devoted to children could be less chronologically in older parents. Yes, but Nigheim, that's just a repeat, or sorry, that's just a repeat of the thesis. Okay? Monica says, people at old age lose energy levels and are less active with their kids. Monica, you're actually kind of right there with the less active, okay? So it's generally true for people, right? So as people get into their 30s and older, they tend to run out of energy faster than their younger aged counterparts. In addition, they have a greater generational gap with children, and therefore understand less of their world. Okay, so here, all I'm doing is I'm basically just breaking it into two sentences. Topic sentence doesn't have to be one sentence. Thesis doesn't have to be just one sentence, okay? Let your mind flow, all right? So as people get into their 30s and older, they tend to run out of energy faster than their younger aged counterparts. In addition, they have greater generational gap with children and therefore understand less of their world. What do I mean by that? As people age, they require more sleep and have less active energy to play sports or games, and this means being less effective as parents, since children demand many hours of intense interaction. Not only that, but as trends and technology advances, they understand they do not have as much insight into the daily lives of their offspring. Okay, so that's my explanation. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to give some quantitative and visible explanation of my topic sentence. Okay? So, as people age, they require more sleep and have less active energy to play sports or games, and this means being less effective as parents since children demand many hours of intense interaction. Demand 14 hours or more of intense interaction daily. Okay, so here what I did is, okay, that was good, but I want to be even a bit more quantitative. I want to be even a bit more academic with my answer. Why not change a little bit, upgrade it a little bit? This is what I'm doing when I'm practicing at home, always thinking, how can I upgrade my essay? How can I make it even better, more accurate according to essay writing standards? Okay. Oh, it says older parents have many challenges dealing with kids because their energies start to run out gradually and kids may need them to play and move. Very good, OS. Don't jump to the future tense, OS, with will. Okay. All right. Millen says, although having enough money can be efficient to reduce financial problems, possessing less energy in late 30s and a wider generational gap may bring up some tension between parents and their offspring. Yeah, Millen, not bad, but again, Millen, you don't have to repeat what you already said in body paragraph 1. Okay. Amanjot says, looking into more detail, there's always a risk that offspring will have genetic mutation and in turn congenital disorders. That's another argument, Amanjot, of being an older parent that's not in this essay. You could argue that, but you have to make sure that's somewhere in your introduction. You do not want to introduce something like genetic variability later in the essay. Okay. All right. So oftentimes my uncle is arguing with Mike about using a tablet too much simply because he does not understand that this is standard for today's youth. Okay, so all I'm doing here now is with my example, I'm using the same example that I used in body paragraph 1 with my uncle and aunt had my cousin Mike at the age of 35. They spend lots of time with him. So I'm using that same example to highlight one of the disadvantages of being an older parent. Okay, so oftentimes, let's put a comma after that because it's a leading expression here. So oftentimes, my uncle is arguing with Mike about using a tablet too much simply because he does not understand that this is standard for today's youth. Okay, so that is my example. Now here, I don't need a connecting concluding sentence because I have a conclusion coming up. So you usually don't need to conclude a paragraph that's right before the conclusion. Keep that in mind because the conclusion is so close and you conclude your whole essay and your points, especially in the IELTS, which really only has 4 paragraphs. Okay, so conclusion. Okay, conclusion also has 3 parts. Good things come in threes. So conclusion has the points restated, the argument strengthened, and a take-home message. Okay, so that's what's included in a conclusion. So here, our points are Advantages, time and money. Disadvantages, less empathy and energy. So paraphrase that. So this is where you want to paraphrase. Now, for the conclusion, for the points restated, your original paraphrase becomes really useful that you did at the beginning when you paraphrased the task 2 question. Okay, so this becomes good. Certain individuals ascertain that a broader age between parents and their offspring is more advantageous. Sorry, this becomes useful for the argument strengthened later on, as you'll see. Okay, give me the points restated here. Let's see some conclusions. So Amanjad says, in conclusion, although mature parenthood has some disadvantages, its positive aspects should not be undermined. Yeah, Amanjad, it's not the right argument. So it's a good sentence, but it's not the right argument according to this essay. Okay, so here's mine. In conclusion, the clear benefits of late parenthood are money and time, but the negatives are low energy and understanding. Okay, so something like that. Okay. All right. So let's see what else you come up with here. Okay. Amar says, in general, older parents tend to spend more time and give better life conditions than their younger counterparts. However, okay, Anvar, you're on the right track for sure. Okay, that's the right approach. Okay. So yeah, this is mine. In conclusion, the clear benefits of late parenthood are money and time, but the negatives are low energy and understanding. I do not think that either of the benefits truly are more valuable than the negatives as negatives. Okay, I'm going to keep it simple with that. All right. So, I do not think that either of the benefits truly are more valuable than the negatives. Okay, so they don't outweigh the disadvantages. Okay, Hassan says, after weighing both sides of the argument, the positive side of parents having children in their 30s is money and power, but this cannot outweigh the negative side of less energy and time. I think you have a little bit of confusion there with the points, Hassan, but overall I think you have a really nice conclusion. Okay? It's good. It's very good, Hassan. I like the wording. It's more money and time, less energy and power. Okay? Or enthusiasm, maybe. Okay. Ois, we're not talking about marriage here. We're talking about children. Some people get married early but don't have children until much later. Careful not to confuse marriage with having children. Manpreet, there is no word limit for the conclusion. There is no such thing as a word limit for the conclusion. Okay. So, in respect of this, people should have children when they feel ready. All right. So that's my take-home message, right? If there's no clear answer to benefits and negatives of having children late or early, there's disadvantages and advantages to both, then really at the end of the day, people should just have children when they feel ready to have children. If somebody feels ready to have a child at the age of 25, have some children. If somebody feels ready to have children at the age of 40, have some children then. Okay? So that's kind of my take-home message. Now, I can read this whole essay, make sure it makes sense, and then make corrections if needed at home. Okay? So there's the full essay. I'm going to post this on our community posts. Okay? So I will have this up later next week for you. Make sure to practice at home. Okay? And we'll have a couple of HD videos being released over the weekend, so check back on the channel, some pre-recorded lesson videos. And of course, check us out on our websites for lots and lots of HD video content for all sections of the IELTS. aehelp.com for academic students and gltshelp.com for general IELTS students. You're very welcome, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend. I will be back on Wednesday, the 9th. And I wish all of you a fantastic rest of your day. Much love from Budapest. I'm Adrian, signing out for now. See you next week.